Okay, we're going to begin. We're on page Yud Beis Amud Aleph. We're on page 12a, and we are learning about the concept of a Taanis sho'os, the Taanis that is only going to last for a certain amount of hours. And this is discussed in chapter 562 in Shulchan Aruch. In the Shulchan Aruch, it talks about it 562 in paragraph 10. And just going to read for you the Shulchan Aruch. Actually, there's two paragraphs here, paragraph 9 and paragraph 10. In the Shulchan Aruch, again, it's in chapter 562 in paragraph 9 and 10. Paragraph 9 says, if a person accepted on themselves to fast the next day, and they fasted, in the night after the fast, they decided to continue fasting. So even though they slept in fast, they slept that night, went to sleep in their fast, and they didn't eat at all that night, and they fasted the whole next day, it is not considered a fast because they did not accept it upon themselves from the next day, from the day before, excuse me. They didn't accept it upon themselves, from before it was that day. So, meaning that once the night came and it's too late for them to accept their fast on themselves. The Mishnah Brura says that we don't look at the fast as if it's a continuation of the day fast. Rather, it should be considered like a new fast. And the original acceptance of a fast that was done for the first day is not able to be used for the second fast, meaning for the night after and for the day after. That's not good enough. You would need its own acceptance of fasting, and you would not be able to say the Anenu prayer. Again, because you didn't accept this fast in advance. And what about the fact that at night you decided I want to fast this another fast day? What about that? You are accepting it then. That doesn't seem to work. The Mishnah Brura says mashma that it doesn't work if you accept it at night, and because the acceptance of the fast needs to be before you start fasting. Now, would it be considered like a partial fast? So he says it'll depend on the next paragraph in the Shulchan Aruch, which we'll soon see in 1 second. But some argue with that and say no. Where you're thinking of fasting a whole day, it's not considered even a partial fast, and it wouldn't be acceptable at all.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes, what's your question?
Okay, so we all know that it says Hashem Yodea Klayot Valev.
Okay.
He knows. So why can't we rely on that? Why must it be an actual statement of fact?
Of acceptance of a fast.
Why can't
So
if I'm thinking and say I'd like to continue the fast without physically saying it, thinking it in your mind, why isn't that good enough?
So there's a reason why. What's the whole purpose of taking on this um, um, taking on a fast in advance? Why do you need it to be an acceptance of a fast? So so it says Einoi Taanis. Your question is really on paragraph 5 in the Shulchan Aruch here. It's chapter 562, paragraph 5. It says any fast that you didn't accept on yourself from the date from when it was still day, that's not called a fast. And um, the reason for that has to do with like a carbon needs to be accepted. You need to, you can't just bring a carbon. You have to like prepare. You need a hasmana in advance, just like a sacrifice needs to be. You accept on yourself, I'm bringing this sacrifice, and then you bring it. That's otherwise it's not considered good enough.
Based on what
As
Ezra is saying, you could say that
yeah,
for Shimon Esrei or the whole davening.
what do you mean?
And Hashem knows what's in your heart. So what do you have to verbalize anything for?
Well, the fact is, you do need to, Hashem knows what you're going to say, but you need to actually do it. Otherwise, Hashem will know that you're not doing it. It's like, what did Hashem have to create the world for? Wow, Hashem knows what's going to happen in the end, right? Uh, the whole Hashem knows everything that's gonna be. He doesn't decide for you, but but he does know. Uh, right? You could take it really far, take that idea. But anyway, so there's this element of a fast is in place of a sacrifice, and I'm not sure where I saw this, but it's discussed.
Rabbi,
It might even be the Mishnah Berurah himself might say it. So I must have seen it somewhere in the Mishnah Berurah where he brings it down. Let me just see if I can
Rabbi,
find it right here. Yeah, yes, Yehuda, what?
it's not for us to prove to God. It's for us to know for ourselves.
Well, it's also to do the action. In other words, Hashem wants it done. I think there's more than that's good. That's a good point, Yehuda. I think there's more to it than that as well. That it's Hashem wants the world to be done, that we actually physically do it, not
Right.
just in a dream. It's actually we are
Right.
actually fixing the world. Anyway, bottom line is there's this concept of accepting the fast on yourself, and that's what we saw here in the Shulchan Aruch about how important it is that it's not even called a fast. Like, you can't say Anenu, and the Ramah adds in that it's possible for an individual maybe to stay Anenu because he says it in Shemet Tefillah, but not accepting it in advance is a problem. I'm just looking where he like expresses this. So he says here a term. He says, "Kidshut soim," sanctify a fast, which implies he brings it from the Rif that you need hasmana mikoyim. You need a preparation in advance. Kidshut soim, from those words, it's in the Haftarah, I think, of the fast day. Kidshut soim. I think it uses that term, but this is the concept. I believe I saw somewhere else where it adds the concept of a carbon, that it's you sanctify it first, and I'm sure I'll find it. Now, in chapter 10, in paragraph 10, the Shulchan Aruch says a person can fast for a part-time fast, hours. And that's as long as he doesn't eat all day. How is this so? If he's busy with his work or his involvement in whatever he's involved in, and he didn't eat until midday or until 9 hours in the day, and he decided to fast the rest of the day, he could fast the rest of the day and gedaven anenu because he's accepting it before the hours that he fasts. Now, this opinion is one view, This is one view that because, in other words, it's now midday. You haven't eaten anything yet today. So you want to now accept upon yourself to fast the rest of the day. So the whole day you're fasting, you're not getting credit for the first half because you never accepted it on yourself. But you want to get credit for the next part of the day. And this is called a Taanis choice, a Taanis for a certain amount of time. And this fasting that you're doing, you're going to now accept upon yourself. You're going to make an acceptance of it. And you're going to fast for the rest of the day. So this first view says that that is acceptable. This is allowed. And they bring that this is Rashi's opinion. And there are other Rishonim that hold this way. But then he brings the opposite view, and that is that even a fast for a certain amount of hours needs to be accepted in advance the day before. So how do you do such a thing? You accept on yourself the day before that tomorrow I am going to fast half of the day. So you accepted it on yourself. Now, when that half day comes, it's now noon, and you already fasted half the day, then you decide, you know what, let me finish the fast. So you already accepted your half, and after you finished fasting your half, it turned out that you finished the fast, you continued fasting that day. Or the opposite case, you accepted on yourself that I'm going to fast the second half of the day, and you didn't end up eating the first half of the day. So in that case, it works out that you accepted your fast in advance the day before. So since you accepted it the day before, that's considered an acceptable fast. And these are the two opinions. Again, the point of these two opinions is how much in advance do you need to accept on yourself the fast? So we're seeing this concept as what I mentioned to you, Ezra, before, that you definitely need an acceptance in advance. The question is how much in advance? Does it have to be the day before? Or if it's a part-time fast, partial fast, maybe acceptance right in advance, right before it is good enough? Or do you need, even then do you need the day before? And I saw from one of the commentaries, he says the reason for this argument is because even if you're only fasting part of the day, we are looking at that day as if the entire day is a fast day. You're not actually physically fasting the whole day, but you've made part of it into a fast day. So this day is considered for you like a fast day, and you need to accept in advance before that day starts. In other words, do we look at the fasting part of the day as if it takes over the whole day, as if your day is called a fast day? Or do we just look at the hours being a fast day? Meaning, of course, everyone agrees you're only accepting those hours to fast, but do we consider it as if that day is considered a fast day for you, and then you would need to accept it upon yourself in advance, meaning the day before it gets dark? Or do we say that, no, the hours that you're fasting is your fast day. That's the hours that you're fasting. As long as you accept it upon yourself in advance, then you would be considered to have the acceptance in advance, and that's good enough. So these are the two opinions. Now, there's another discussion here that I should mention, and that is it good enough to accept it in your mind? Is a acceptance of a fast day, is that considered like a neder for Hegdish, a donation for the Beis HaMikdash that you accepted? You made it up in your mind. Normally, we don't accept things that you make up in your mind unless you verbalize it. But there are scenarios where we consider it to be a vow, even though you only did it in your mind. For example, if you are deciding to give a certain amount of charity to a certain charity and you made it up in your mind, it's not like you're just thinking about it. You decide, I am giving them, you know what? I'm giving them $1,000. That's it. I made up in my mind, they've done good work, giving that charity $1,000. You made it up in your mind. You decided in your mind, you decided you're giving that amount. So would that be considered a neder? So there is a concept when it comes to tzedakah, moitzos vasecha tishmar, so that what you say you have to keep. But there's also a concept of the nidava, the acceptance in your heart, nediv leiv, that whatever you accepted in your heart, I forget the pasuk for it, but there is a source that even something that you make up, that you decide without verbalizing, you would have to keep, and that would be regarding tzedakah. And the question is, would that also apply to Taanis, to a fast? So there seems to be an argument about this as well. There's a famous Rabbeinu Tam that talks about this and holds that when you accept upon yourself with machshava, that that's considered a vow. I believe it's an opinion of Rabbeinu Tam that this vow would be considered a vow that you would have to keep, and therefore this acceptance of a fast, would that be good enough if you think it, or do you need to actually verbalize it? The same thing applies to Shabbos. Shabbos, before Shabbos starts, we're supposed to accept in advance Shabbos on ourselves and add from the weekday to the Shabbos. So there as well, you could debate. I mean, are we supposed to really verbalize it? I'm accepting on myself Shabbos, or is it good enough just to think I am adding on to Shabbos now, because Shabbos starts exactly at 5:30, and now I am in shul already, and it's 5:25. And I'm going to now accept on myself to start Shabbos and add on from the weekday to the holiness. Do you say it with your words, or is it good enough with your thoughts? These are discussions that are talked about. Do you need to verbalize it with your mouth? Or so, in general, in Torah, most things you have to actually verbalize. It's not enough just to think it. Doesn't. But it seems that there are exceptions to that rule, and most people don't accept Shabbos verbally. They accept it in their thoughts. So it seems that probably is the accepted opinion. It's probably better to say it with your mouth. But anyway, the point over here is that there's an argument, if it works, accepting on yourself the fast. So here we have a few arguments that it's important to know. We're learning the Gemara about these things. It's important to know that the Rishonim, the commentaries, do debate, and they bring sources and proofs to these things. And one of the issues is it enough to accept on yourself a fast just a few minutes before you fast? Or do you need to accept upon yourself, if you're fasting a part-time fast, or do you need to accept upon yourself a fast the day before?
Rabbi?
Before I answer your question, Moshe, I just want to add one point to this. When you accept on yourself, you want to take a fast on. Let's say you want to do tshuva and you want to become loved, more beloved before Hashem. So you choose, you want to take on, there's a certain day that you chose, I'm going to fast on some, Monday. You decide, the next Monday I want to fast. So Sunday, mincha time, you say, I am going to be in a fast tomorrow. Hey, Taanis, you're right. You say, I'm going to be fasting tomorrow. And you accept on yourself to start fasting, to fast that day from the morning to the evening. Now, the fact is that you are allowed to eat at night, just like many of the public fast days, we eat at night. That fast day that you're fasting from the morning to the night, you need to accept it on yourself in advance the day before. Why can't you just accept it upon yourself the night before? So this brings us to that same idea that I mentioned yesterday, that when you fast the whole day, even though you're eating at night, that eating at night is really a leniency you're really supposed to be fasting at night. For example, tomorrow is a fast day. Tomorrow is a public fast day called Asara B'Teves. It's the only fast day that falls on a Friday, if I'm not mistaken. And we end up fasting into Shabbos. And you don't want to push many people will daven Ma'ariv a little early so that they can break their fast exactly when Shabbos starts. We don't like to fast into Shabbos. So but tomorrow is a fast day. Tonight, I believe we're all going to be eating eating in advance before the fast. Tonight is, you want to eat, make sure that you're not going to be too hungry tomorrow. You eat a normal meal before the fast, and even though it's night already. Why? Because the official fast, we know from when we're younger, we know that it only starts by day. This is not Tisha B'Av. This is called Asara B'Teves, the 10th day of Teves. Today's the 9th of Teves. Tomorrow's the 10th of Teves, his famous fast day. It's the day that the walls of Jerusalem were breached, and siege happened, siege around Jerusalem, and the beginning of it was a siege around Jerusalem, I should say, and the siege was the beginning to the breaching and to the destruction. So because the siege happened, because it's considered a very serious fast, actually, Asar B'Teves. But still, we eat at night. Now, the fact that we eat at night is really a leniency. Really, we should be fasting tonight as well. And the rabbis were lenient. They can't put on us to fast so much that we should fast all these fasts that from the night to the next day, 24 hours. So the rabbis were lenient. They established the fast. They said, practically you only have to fast in the morning, from the morning to the night, even though officially we should really include the whole night. So this fast day really starts at night. It's really a fast from the night and goes to the next night. But in practice, we don't fast at night. We're still awake. We don't fast. If a person goes to sleep, there we'll see that there's a halacha that you end up starting the fast once you go to sleep. Even though you woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, that fast is on. Why is the fast on for you? 2 o'clock in the morning, and other people who stayed up all night, they're still eating. They're eating their dinner at 2 o'clock. They're still eating. They're still having their dessert at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're eating. And you woke up 2 o'clock in the morning. You have to fast. Why? Because really, for you, the fast began. You went to sleep. The fast already kicked in. The other person stayed up, so the leniency of the rabbis stays on with you until the morning. But if you go to sleep, then the fast day kicks in. It's already a fast at night. It kicks in. So this idea is why this is the concept that you need to accept the fast. When you accept the fast, again, a public fast, you don't have to accept on yourself, but let's say a private fast, you would need to accept it upon yourself the day before. Why are you accepting it the day before? You're accepting it the day before because the day before is really before the fast begins, because at night, really, the fast is on. It's really part of the fast at night. So you can't just say, oh, let me accept it at Ma'ariv. Let me accept I'm fasting. I want to fast next Monday. So Sunday night at Ma'ariv, I'm gonna accept in my Shemona Esrei, I'll say I'm accepting on myself a fast day the next day. That doesn't work, because really the Ma'ariv is already part of your fast. You have to accept the fast in advance. What do you mean? I'm eating at Ma'ariv. After Ma'ariv, I'm going to have supper. Yeah, but that's a leniency that you're able to eat still. But really the fast kicks in. It's really called a fast day, even at night. Even the night is part of your fast day. And if you want to accept your fast in advance, it has to be at Mincha. It has to be beforehand. It has to be the day before. And so that's the concept here that we're seeing. Now, if you're fasting a part-time fast, like a partial fast, there's a debate if we could actually accept it the same day, because it's still before your actual acceptance of your fasting, your legal fasting. So there's a debate, and there's room to say that maybe you can accept it upon yourself right in advance, right beforehand. and maybe that's good enough? Or do you need to actually accept it the day before? Okay, yes, Moshe, you wanted to ask or say something. Moshe?
Yeah, Rabbi, I want to ask, not disregarding public fast days, but Mondays and Thursdays, or at a time you want to fast for a time of, can you say bli neder at any point, and then bli neder and then continue and then you change it? I mean, is there any prohibition against that?
Yeah, it seems if you say bli neder, I saw it discussed. I think I saw it in the Piskei Teshuvos. If you're saying bli neder, does that ruin the validity of the fast? In other words, the whole concept of a fast is that you are accepting it as a fast. If you add the words bli neder, you sort of lose that element of a vow of fasting. You know what I mean? So I don't think that the bli neder part is. I think it's mentioned that it's a problem to add the bli neder. It's not like a real acceptance. Then and you're not really making a vow for a fast. So I think the bli neder part is a problem. I believe I saw it somewhere. I have to look over some of the things that I looked at. I was looking at a lot of different stuff, but I did see them mentioned to talk about them.
Other nuts that get the stuff in big plastic things.
Okay, so we are now we're going to look back at the Gemara here. Let's look back at the Gemara here. We have the Gemara on the top of the page, which spoke about fasting for sha'os. And this was based on the Gemara before, and the Gemara said that Rav Huna had mentioned, that if a individual accepts on themselves a fast, so they can, even if they ate at night, they could still say this tefillas Taanis. They could still do anenu. That was the Gemara on 11b, and that idea also sort of shows us that even though the individual accepted on himself the fast, but he ate all night, the next day he's full, but he could still say the anenu prayer. The fast is really, it's still considered a fast day, even though he ate all night. It's considered the fast day is still a fast day, and that's not a problem. Then came the next statement about lon b'tainisoi, that he continued fasting, and that's where he can't say the tefillas tainis because he never accepted it on himself. Now, different ways of understanding that. He didn't accept it on himself either means he did not accept it in advance the day before, or he didn't accept it on himself means he is not, it could mean that he didn't accept it the day before. He would like to accept it now, but it's too late. Or he didn't accept it physically. He didn't accept it. He just continued his fast. So these are different ways of learning the Gemara, which based on these different ways of learning the Gemara, it'll come up a difference in halacha. In other words, do you learn from this Gemara that you need to accept it in advance the day before? Or is it just talking about a case where he never accepted it on himself? So these are different, the different arguments that I'm sharing with you are based on the different ways of learning the Gemara. Now, the Gemara then said that a person could fast for a certain amount of hours. And if you do fast for a certain amount of hours, you do say anenu prayer. That's acceptable. We did mention that there is a problem if you don't accept it in advance, but it's a little vague what that means. You didn't accept it in advance. To what extent? Did you not accept it the day before, or did you not accept it a few minutes before? Did you not accept it at all? So these are different ways of learning that statement. Then the Gemara goes back to this, and now again on 12a on the top line it says you can't eat all day. That you could fast for a certain amount of time, but if you want it to be considered a fast day, it means that you fasted all day. You might not have promised to fast all day, but in order for it to be considered acceptable, you need to have fasted all day. And, it's considered a Taanis choice. It's considered a fast for only certain hours. What do you mean? I fasted all day. Why is it only a fast for certain hours? And well, the answer is, this is a biased question. He asks, what do you mean? You fasted all day. Why are you calling it? That's for sure, a good fast. That's not a fast for hours. That's a regular fast. This is a biased question. The Gemara's answer is no. He chose imlach imlucha. He decided, he changed his mind, and he decided now he's fasting. What does that mean? That the fast that he did of the partial fast, he accepted on himself. But the rest of the day fast, that part he never accepted. But he chose to fast. He chose, that he's going to do it. After he started, so to speak, after he fasted already, the first half of the day, he decided to finish his fast. Or he decided to do the first half of the day, and the second half of the day he already had committed to, he made a vow about. And again, here we have these different ways of learning this. He's fasting for hours, and he chose a part of the day he never accepted on himself. It's only the other part that he accepted on himself, and that's going to be considered a fasting. Now, the Gemara asks some questions about how the Gemara deals with how we're in the third line of the Gemara. When does the fast end? This is the Gemara's discussion. Do you have to finish the fast until 3 stars come out? So we're going to start on page 12a. Let me tell you in the art scroll, 12a1, and in the regular Gemara, it's on the third line, V'yamar Rav Chisda, another statement of the Gemara, of Rav Chisda, excuse me, about Rav Chisda's first statement was that you need to fast all day in order for it to be considered a proper fast. Even though you didn't accept the whole day on yourself, you only accepted part of the day, that's called the Taanis choice. That's called the partial fast. That's called a partial fast because the only partial part of it did you accept on yourself. The other part you just chose afterwards. Now, Rav Chisda comes along and has another statement. V'yamar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, Kol Taanis shalei shaka alav chama lav shemei Taanis. Any fast day that the sun did not set, and the way we're going to translate this is that the end of Shkia, not doesn't mean the beginning Shkia, the beginning of sunset. It means that the sun fully set. Any fast that the sun didn't fully set, so it's not called a fast, meaning you have to finish fast. You have to continue fasting until the end of the day. And the end of the day basically means not sunset, but 3 stars. And the 3 stars are average size stars, and in here in Florida, it's somewhere around maybe 20, 25, 30 minutes after the sunset. And the problem is nowadays we don't often see stars because there's so much lights on our streets that when you go outside, you don't actually see. So we sort of rely on a calculation, and there are methods, at least online. You could punch in your zip code, and it will tell you when is Tseis HaKochavim, the appearance of stars, and it has to do with how far the sun has set down below the horizon, And there's different calculations, different opinions about it. And so some calculations will tell you Seis HaKechavim today is 5:58 or 5:59 here in Florida. And you might have others that'll say it's 6:05 or 6:10. And then you have others that'll say, no, we wait 72 minutes after sunset. There are different opinions about it, and some people are more strict or more lenient. But that's basically a fast day, according to Rav Chizda, needs to be until the end of sunset, meaning the final setting of the sun, not the beginning of the setting, the end of the setting of the sun, which basically means at dusk, and that's when it's considered a full fast. The Gemara has some contradictions to this because we have cases where if you fast, you don't have to finish the fast. You fast until later in the afternoon, and it's good enough. And so the Gemara seems to show from there that maybe a fast doesn't, full day fast doesn't always mean a full day. You could fast, you fast until a certain point in the day, and that's a certain point in the later afternoon, and that should be good enough. So, for example, the Gemara asks here a question, Meisvei, we have a contradiction from a Mishnah. Anshe Mishmar Misanin. It says the people of the Mishmar, these are people who would do the service in the temple. They're called the people of the Mishmar. And the Mishmar consisted of a group of Kohanim and Leviim. There were priests and Levites that were divided into 24 different groups. And each group did a week at the Beis Hamikdash. There's Anshe Mishmar and Anshe Maimon. There's people of the Mishmar, people of that week, and that they would, and then there were people of that day that did the service that day. Within that week, it was divided into, each day was divided up. But anyway, people who did the service that week, meaning the Kohanim and the Leviim, so they would participate in the community fasts, it says. Anshe Mishmar, this Mishnah is a little later in our tractate, and it says that Anshe Mishmar are misanin, they do fast with these community fasts. Again, we're talking about fasts of the community, didn't rain or other issues. So they participate in certain fasts. They fast, and they don't complete the fast. And the reason why they don't complete the fast is they're busy doing the service. They're not able to finish the fast. They don't finish it. And nevertheless, it seems that we are considering that this fast is called a fast for them. Rav Chizda wants to say if you don't finish the fast when the night comes, meaning if you don't keep fasting until it's dusk, that's not called a fast. But we have a Mishnah that says no, that they would actually fast and they would break it early. And it sounds like it's considered a valid fast. So the Gemara answers that no. Hasam there, l'tzu'urei nafshe bialmu. There, they did fast, true, but it's not really considered a fast. Rashi adds in, they wouldn't even say anenu. And it's not really considered an obligation that that they were like obligated in the fast. They never really accepted it. It's more that they would participate in everyone else's fasting, and they would join in their fasting. But at least the way it seems from Rashi, is that it wasn't even an obligation. It was more of a custom. Einoi Taanis. It was not a fast. Not to daven, not to be obligated. And he says, whenever they want to eat, they could eat. But they would fast, and they're supposed to, I guess, participate in it. But it's not really, doesn't have the legal status as a fast. Now, the the Gemara continues, and it says, Tashima, come in here, the Yama Rebbe Eliezer ben Tzadok, that Rebbe Eliezer ben Tzadok said, Ani mibnei banav shall Sanov ben Binyamin. I am from the grandchildren of a person by the name of Sanov. On the side, there's another version that this is Sanah, the hay at the end, not a base. I am from the grandchildren of Sanov or Sanov ben Binyamin. Upamachas, in one time, Chol Tisha B'Av lias b'Shabbos. Tisha B'Av fell out on Shabbos. V'dachinu liachar Shabbos, and we pushed it off till after Shabbos, because on Tisha B'Av you don't fast if it falls on Shabbos. By the way, it's very interesting. There's an opinion that says that Asara b'Teves, the 10th of Teves, is so strict that if it would fall on Shabbos, we would actually fast on Shabbos, just like Yom Kippur. Tisha B'Av, you push it off. We don't fast Tisha B'Av on Shabbos. If Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, we push it off till the next day. But Asara b'Teves, the fast tomorrow, it's actually, there's I think it's Abu Draham. Abu Draham says, it's a famous discussion among all the rabbis discuss this, like, why is Asara b'Teves so strict? How could the Abu Draham say such a thing? That if this fast would fall on Shabbos, we would actually fast on Shabbos. Yeah, we would fast on Shabbos. But anyway, Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, we push it off. And this is what Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok says. He says, I remember, he says, one time it fell on Shabbos, we pushed it off till the next day. We fasted on that Tisha B'Av. It was really the 10th of Av because it was pushed off. We fasted, but we didn't finish it. And the reason my family didn't finish it was because Mipnei Sheyomtiv Shalanu, it was our Yomtiv. And because it was our Yomtiv, we didn't do the full-fledged rules. We stopped early. And we didn't complete it. We fasted till later in the afternoon. That's it. That's what we did. It was our Yomtiv. And it's their Yomtiv. There's a whole, there's a whole group of people that had certain yomtivs. They had certain holiday days, and their yomtiv had to do with the fact that they donated wood to the Beis Hamikdash when the Beis Hamikdash needed wood. Their family, son of Ben Binyamin, had donated wood, and the day they donated the wood was the 10th day of Av, and every year they made a holiday on that day, their family, because and they would bring wood on that day to the Beis Hamikdash. Even if the Beis Hamikdash had wood, they would donate wood to the Beis Hamikdash, and it would be used on the Mizbeach, and they would make a whole holiday. And it's brought in Megillas Taanis, this book that talks about all the holiday days, that this that the 10th day of Av was a holiday for this family. And so the problem was Tisha B'Av fell on the 10th of Av that year because it fell on Shabbos. And on the one hand, they have to fast for Tisha B'Av. On the other hand, it's a holiday. And so what did they do? So they fasted, but they broke their fast. And what we see from here is that it's considered a fast day, even though you break it early. They broke it early because they wanted to celebrate, because they were supposed to celebrate. They're Yom Tov, they're obligated to celebrate. And the Gemara here again answers the same answer. Hasam nami litzure nafshe. Here also, it was all about painting themselves. They pained themselves to fast, but participate with the community fast. But nevertheless, it wasn't really considered a fast day for them. And that's the way the Gemara understands it. It's a lot to talk about over here, but I see Mordechai wants to say something. Yes, Mordechai.
It wasn't another family who donated wood. Their holiday was on the 20th of Av, and the Rebbe sometimes, when he would speak on his father's yahrzeit, would allude to that.
You know what? I don't remember. I know, these Gemaras were, the Rebbe did often talk about it, but if we take a look, it brings It brings the different dates. Where is it? It's somewhere. Somewhere later on over here. So it says Esrim Batamos. It has Chamisha B'Av, the 5th of Av, Shiva B'Av, Asara B'Av, the 10th of Av, the 15th of Av. Yeah, there is a 20th of Av. Yeah. I guess it makes sense. Yeah, it's on the Mishnah on page 26a.
Right,
Anyway,
and the
so
Rebbe
yeah,
would sometimes talk about that.
makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. I'm not so familiar, but okay. So anyway, the bottom line is that what is this story? So we have this Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Tzadok. So they fasted on Tisha B'Av. Now, when did Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok live? So if you remember the Gemara in Gitta, the famous story about Rabbi Yochanan asked for 3 things when the Beis Hamikdash was being destroyed. What were the 3 things? One was that Reb Tzadok should get doctors for Reb Tzadok, right? So Reb Tzadok had fasted for, 40 years? And he could hardly eat anything. His stomach could not handle any food because he had fasted for so many years. And he was such a holy person to the extent that when Vespasian saw Rabbi Yochanan stand up for Reb Tzadok, he said, "What are you standing up for, some disgusting old man?" Because obviously after fasting for 40 years, he must have looked terrible. And Rabbi Yochanan said that if there would be another Reb Tzadok like him, even if you had double the amount of soldiers, you would never be able to destroy the Beis Hamikdash. The merit of Reb Tzadok, if there was another one, forget about it. You wouldn't succeed anything. Reb Tzadok was holy of holies. Anyway, so Reb Tzadok, he asked Vespasian that one of the requests he had was that he should they should allow find the doc they should get doctors to help heal Reb Tzadok. And he used to eat like suck out the juice from from a fig in order to gain his strength back, because he couldn't eat it, but he could at least suck it out. Anyway, the bottom line is that this is the son of Reb Tzadok. So we're dealing with somewhere around the year 70, around the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And I'm telling you this because you have to think about this practically. He's talking about fasting on Tisha B'Av, and he's talking about celebrating a day of bringing wood to the Beis Hamikdash. So there's 2 problems here that seem to be contradictory. If the Beis Hamikdash is still around, the Beis Hamikdash wasn't destroyed yet. Let's say he's young, Rabbi Eliezer is remembering this from his youth. So let's say Tzadok is still young. So the Beis Hamikdash is still around. And that's why they're going to be celebrating this this holiday, because the Beis Hamikdash is still around. Again, remember, we've mentioned that the holidays of Megillas Taanis were all batal, were all nullified when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So he's telling us about celebrating the holiday of the 10th of Av, seemingly because the Beis Hamikdash wasn't destroyed yet. So the Beis Hamikdash wasn't destroyed yet, and he's celebrating this holiday, but they did not fast on Tisha B'Av fully. They fasted part of the day. They didn't complete the fast. what does this say about Tisha B'Av? Did they fast Tisha B'Av during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash? This is the question. Did they fast on Tisha B'Av? Why would they fast on Tisha B'Av during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash? What would they fast for? There's a Beis Hamikdash. Well, the first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. So would that be a reason to fast? Or would you say no, because we have a second Beis Hamikdash? So this statement of Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok sheds a little light on it. If we say that this statement was talking about during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and that would make sense maybe because he's celebrating the 10th of Av, and though that holiday of the 10th of Av would only be celebrated during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, because after it was destroyed, seemingly they would not celebrate that holiday of the 10th of Av. So it must be during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. And if so, you see that they used to fast on Tisha B'Av during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. Do you hear what was seeing here? That during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, they would actually fast on Tisha B'Av. However, there's another way of learning this. The other way of learning this is that even though it was after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, there were opinions that said they still celebrated those holidays. We don't follow that. We don't celebrate those holidays after the destruction. But it could be Rabbi Eliezer did celebrate those holidays. And really, Rabbi Eliezer is talking after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, and that's why he's fasting on Tisha B'Av. So if Rabbi Eliezer holds that you still celebrate the holiday of the 10th of Av after the destruction, not like we paskin, so then you could say that the story is talking after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. That's the way Tosfos wants to learn, that it was after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, and he still celebrated those holidays, their family, even though there's arguments about celebrating those holidays. Really, you don't have to celebrate, but his family seems like they celebrated those holidays, the 10th of Av, for their family. And therefore, even after the destruction, they celebrated that day. They didn't continue fasting on Tisha B'Av, even though it was, after the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash, they fasted on Tisha B'Av. But there is another way to learn this, and that would be that it's really before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, and it's during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. And if so, it makes sense why they celebrated that holiday. It would make sense why they celebrated that holiday. And the only thing that would be interesting would be that they actually fasted on Tisha B'Av during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. And probably it has to do with the fact that the second Beis Hamikdash was much less holy than the first Beis Hamikdash. And therefore, they considered it still a time to fast on Tisha B'Av because they don't have the real Beis Hamikdash yet. They had they would make do with the second Beis Hamikdash, but it didn't have the Aron there. It didn't have five of the major holy elements to it were missing in the second Beis Hamikdash. So that would be a reason why maybe they still fasted. Again, it's a discussion. If they fasted Tisha B'Av during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, and it would seemingly be connected to this Gemara. I do want to mention there's another discussion that's connected to this Gemara, and that is when Tisha B'Av is pushed off, is that a reason? Is that room for leniency? Let's say a person is making a bris on that day. Let's say the 10th of Av is the day someone's making a bris for their son. Would you be allowed to break your fast on the 10th of Av? Look at what we see here. Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok broke his fast on the 10th of Av. It was a nidche, it was a pushed off fast day. And when a fast day is pushed off, there's room to be lenient. And that leniency that you can do, that Rabbi Eliezer said that they would break their fast early. They didn't wait till the end of the Tisha B'Av to fasting the whole day. This was a holiday for them. A holiday for them, they broke it early. So would there be room for leniency if someone has a bris that day? Would they be allowed to break their fast? Again, the community you can't make a meal for the community that day. But would you be allowed to break your fast on Tisha B'Av if it's a nidche, if it's pushed off because it fell on Shabbos, it got pushed off. So there was, of course, room for leniency, and we see in our Gemara that Rebbe Eliezer celebrated that day. He didn't celebrate the whole day; he waited till the end, but he broke his fast early. So the question would be, could you do that for a bris? Now, it's actually brought in the Torah, brings this, and the Torah brings this in chapter 559. He actually brings this story. He says, he brings a story, and he bases it on our Gemara. He brings a story. He says, Maisa, a story that Tisha B'Av fell on Shabbos. It was pushed off till the next day. And he says there's a Rabbeinu Yavitz who was making a bris that day. And he davened mincha early. And he took a shower on Tisha B'Av. He took a shower. And he didn't finish his fast because it was his Yom Tov. And he brings a proof from our Gemara. Rabbi Elazar, the son of Reb Tzadok, says, I am from the children of Sana ben Binyamin, and Tisha B'Av fell on Shabbos. We pushed it off, and we fasted, and then we didn't finish our fast because it was Yom Tov Shalanu Haya. It was our day of fasting. So it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, in the Torah, that you could break your fast. If you make a bris that day, you're the Bala bris, you're the. And there's on the side, he talks about if the Sandik can also break his fast early and take a shower. The Moyel, there's the Moyel, the Sandik, and the father of the son. These are all people that are called the Balei Abris. And they ate, they broke their fast. And this is what it's brought down. It only applies to a fast day that's pushed off. It doesn't apply to a regular fast day. The Mishnah Berurah brings down that maybe even a pidyon aben would be the same thing. He brings in this same chapter, he brings but it's based on our Gemara over here that you could he says Yesh Oimrim, some say the same thing would apply if a pidyon aben falls on Tisha B'Av that's pushed off. It's called their Yom Tov. The father and the kohen don't have to finish the fast. You can't make a meal for the community. And it has to be that day is the actual day of the pidyon aben, the 31st day. So this is the story here. Again, it's really a side point that they broke their fast. But the point of the Gemara is talking about is that you see that a fast day is valid even if you don't finish it and you didn't finish fasting the whole day, which would sound like you could fast for a certain amount of hours. And even though you didn't finish the whole day, it should be good enough. And the Gemara pushes it off and says, no, that these fast days are not real. They're not really called fast days. You broke it. It's not really, you participated in the community fasting, but you didn't really, it's not really called a fast. And we're going to continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, with the next proof. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful
Rabbi,
day.
I have a question for you real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Tomorrow before we start, can you give a little bit of what are the rules of tadir ve'eno tadir kodem?
Okay, is it applicable tomorrow to the
well,
something
because
to do with...
I was wondering whether or not I could use that here in this situation.
What do you mean?
When you have a situation of a fast and Shabbat, can you use tadir ve'eno tadir kodem to explain why you end up doing Shabbat but not the fast? I know people normally use the idea that it's a puranut, so therefore you push it away from Shabbat because you can't have something like that. But I'm asking the question is, can you use this this rule?
Right? Would that be enough to push off a fast? Well, the thing is that normally that's an issue of which one comes first. it doesn't normally say don't do one. And if you're going to fast on Shabbos, that would mean that you're not celebrating one thing. Now, the rule of tadir v'she'eino tadir would be, when you have a question of what to do first, which one comes first, but which one overrides the other one, that's not that we don't, not necessarily does that have anything to do with doing something more often. The fact that it's more often doesn't necessarily mean it'll do away with the other one. So to say Shabbos is going to push off a fast because it's tadir, that wouldn't be the reason. If you would say that, if you would say a shir shel yoim of Shabbos before, Barchi Nafshi, when Chodesh falls on Shabbos, I could say, yeah, it makes sense. You could say shir shel yoim for Shabbos because tadir v'she'eino, which one do you do first? Maybe I would say something like that. But when it comes to push something to break something, then you have to have like an asay doich haloisa. You need a real a powerful rule to be able to knock the other one. So I think that would be the answer to the question about pushing off. One would push off the other. You need a solid rule. You can't just do a tadir thing. This is more often. Tadir it's a rule in Torah, but it's not, doesn't have the power to say don't do a certain rule. You could fast on Shabbos, so I think that would be the answer to that. I don't know if there's much more to tadir. There's probably a few rules about it. I guess I could look and see if I can find anything about it, but I think that's the answer to the question. Anyway, Zygazon to everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi. See you tomorrow.
Good, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.